Today is March 30th, 2019. My name is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Joe Sheets in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Sir, where were you born?
I was born right here in Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
When's your birthday?
9/20/1979.
1979. Who's your father?
Edward Earl Sheets of Bartlesville.
And your mother?
Betty Jane Sheets of Dewey.
What was her maiden name?
Viles.
V-I-L-E-S.
Viles.
Okay. You go through school in Bartlesville?
I did, all 12 years.
Graduated what year?
I graduated in 1999.
1999 from Bartlesville High School. Who was your favorite teacher?
I would have to say my 8th grade history teacher, Mr. Morrell. He was an instrumental part of teaching me a lot about my love of history.
And that was at what school?
Central.
Central. And he taught you about history and all this?
Oh, he taught me a lot about history and just the way of teaching, and I just learned so much that year. So.
Yeah. What did you do for recreation in high school?
I worked.
Where'd you work?
I moved out of my mom and dad's house when I was a junior in high school, so I spent my 2 years of high school working full-time at Walmart Tire Lube Express.
Did you climb the mound?
I did not.
You did not.
I did not.
About Circle Mountain?
Nope.
Nope. Spend all your time at Walmart?
Spent all my time working somewhere.
Yes. What did you do in your off time?
A lot of times I did odd and end jobs, did a lot of mechanic work out of my house since I took automotive at Tech. I learned a lot about, that growing up and then getting really top proper in it, and then did a lot at my house. So when I wasn't working at work, I was working out in my garage.
This Tri-County Tech out here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did you take out there?
Automotive.
Automotive mechanics?
Yes.
Did you work as a mechanic?
Not in the civilian world.
Okay. Now, when did you join the Army?
I joined August 26, 1998.
Why did you join the Army over the Navy, Marines, or Air Force?
Because there was no Navy, Marines, or Air Force recruiter around.
Okay. Where did you go for your basic training?
I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri in May of 1999.
Why so long between the time you joined and basic?
Because I graduated in May of 1999.
Okay.
I joined in August of 98, so I was what they called a split off.
Okay.
So I went my senior year of high school, and then I left after that.
Okay. Tell me about basic.
Basic was interesting. I feel like I had the best set of drill sergeant instructors there. They cared more about us than anybody else. They always pushed us harder, longer, faster, whatever it was. And it was great to have that kind of mentality of drill sergeants when I looked around when the other drill sergeants just didn't care. So it was very nice.
What type of training did you have?
Basic infantry skills. Back then we still taught a lot of the Vietnam era training. I learned how to dig foxholes, shoot, fight, communicate, normal soldier skills as far as rank structure, how to be a soldier, so on and so forth.
You go on bivouac?
I did go on bivouac.
Tell me about bivouac.
Bivouac was very interesting. Of course, during bivouac, we take a whole company out, so we have 4 platoons. And the 4 platoons, take up different quarters of the perimeter. And it was so funny because the drill sergeants would always come and try to penetrate the perimeter or get other drill sergeants that we didn't know, dress up in civilians, try to come in. And this one particular day, we had a drill sergeant come in and started speaking Spanish, not realizing that one of the ladies that was with us was Puerto Rican, so she started talking Spanish to him, and he just kind of threw his hands up and walked away. So it was very, very interesting. But something about that was very, very touching. I've always tried to do with my guys growing up. Was our drill sergeants at the end of bivouac sat down with us, kind of took off their hats. They're called a round brown. Put them beside. And there was 4 drill sergeants. Had Drill Sergeant Brown, Drill Sergeant Washington, Drill Sergeant can't believe I forgot them, Dawes and Drill Sergeant Walker. And the female Drill Sergeant Washington, she was very sentimental about what she did. But she went down, had our whole platoon sitting there, and she sat there and she goes, okay, we're still your superiors, we're sergeants, but we want to know the truth on how we did, and we're going to tell you the truth how we thought about you. And they went around person by person, all the way through us all, and telling us the truth. Some of it was very constructive. Some of it was like, that's a kick in the nuts. But it was honest, and that's what meant a lot to us. And to back up to pre-basic, when you go to get to your gear, your uniforms and stuff like that from reception, your first day of basic training. Back then we had the old computer paper that came out all in one long piece. Can't remember what they call it now, but so there's 120 of us out there, and they're calling off names. And when you hear your name called, you grab your paperwork, you go inside the building, you wait, so they can start issuing your stuff. Well, out of the 120, my paperwork was not there, and I'm standing outside with about 15 drill sergeants, all yelling at me, telling me I don't know my name, calling me anything from the scum of the earth to the dumbest person I ever met. And Drill Sergeant Washington that day flipped over my ear case, because that's how they identified what platoon we'd be in, went off on me because I was in her platoon. And just told me that I was going to be the worst private she ever had, this, that, and the other thing. And, so I was a guide-on bearer from day one. I was the only guide-on bearer through the whole way. So now back to the bivouac. And she gets to me, and she's sitting there, and she just stops everybody. And she goes, private sheets. Private sheets. She goes, let me tell you, from day one, when I sat there and you were the only person out there and you never quivered, you never cried, you never broke, you just sat there. And you took all of us on it because we didn't have your paperwork. She goes, I knew you was going to be a good private. I know I didn't tell you that, but I knew it. She goes, I got to know something. How did you do it? She goes, everybody that's ever happened to has always broken, just broke down. And I looked back at her and I said, well, man, Drill Sergeant, it's like being at home. You remind me of my mom. So it was a fun moment, and it was a sentimental moment between me and my instructor.
Yeah.
So very good day.
Basic lasted how long?
10 weeks.
What's your most vivid memory of basic?
Probably that one moment I just
Yeah.
explained.
Yeah. Okay.
The shooting was natural to me. I was a top shot in my company that year, or that cycle, and I was actually selected to help train the ones that couldn't shoot. In fact, we had this female Private Jackson who just could not shoot the broadside of a barn, but you have to qualify in order to move on. And Drill Sergeant Brown, who was actually a big old white guy, and that guy was probably 6'6", just huge. They always try to teach her how to hold the forward grip, hold your pistol grip, and fire. Well, she was so short, she couldn't do it. So I sat out there and trained her how to use the front of the magazine and the pistol grip to stay forward on. And she came back, she gave me a big old hug the next day because she passed the BRMs. So it was a good day.
After basic, where'd you go?
I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
What'd you do there?
I did a 63 Bravo, is what it used to be called. Now it's 91 Bravo. It's a light wheel vehicle mechanic school. It again is 10 weeks long.
What vehicles were you working on?
Anything on the ground. We learned anything from 125 GPM pumps all the way up to the HET, which is the
125?
gallons per minute, the little pumps,
Oh, the pump, yes.
because we have to work on anything on the ground. So.
Okay. The head, that's the big, that's the 5-ton?
It's actually, I think, a 20-ton, I believe is the rating. It hauls the Abrams tanks.
Okay.
The trailer has like 20 axles underneath it,
So you were working on anything that moved on the ground?
pretty much.
Okay. You said that was a 10-week school?
10-week school.
Okay. What's your best memory of that school?
The funniest thing I ever seen in my life. So we had a drill sergeant there. We had one drill sergeant. His name was Drill Sergeant Dawes. And this guy, Drill Sergeant Kruger. That's my drill sergeant there. And this guy would do anything for a laugh. Oh, and lunchtime, we'd be able to go eat at the DFAC, and then go back up to our room and kind of just chill out for a little bit and then head back to class. Well, there's many days that he would stand out in the foyer of the barracks as everybody came back in. And you never try to make eye contact because you just try to get past him and up the staircase and you're good. But one day I'll walk in and there was a female and a male in front of us who were kind of hitting on each other and stuff like that. So he stops these two. And he looks at her, "What's your favorite movie?" And she rattles off something. And he looks at him, "What's your favorite movie?" And he rattles off something. He said, "I don't like either one of them. My favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz. You remember that scene where the witch is chasing Dorothy?" And I was like, "Yes." "Reenact that scene." So there the two of them go around him, around the corner, talking about, one's yelling, "I'm going to get you, Dorothy." And the other one's, "You ain't going to get me, the Wicked Witch of the West." And I just did my best to hold my laughter in to get up the staircase to get away from it. But it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
So from the mechanic school, where'd you go?
I was national reserve, so I just went back to my reserve unit, back to my civilian life, doing 1 week a month, 2 weeks a year.
Okay. Now, were you called to active duty?
I was.
When?
I got my first call on Valentine's Day, 2003. I was working second shift at Schlumberger here in Barnesville. And I had just gotten to work and my cell phone went off, but I was sitting there talking to my boss, so I didn't answer my phone. Me and my boss got done talking. I went onto my area, looked at my phone, and it was the unit. So I called them back, and they gave me the code word for deployment. So I immediately locked up my toolbox and walked back to my boss's office. Well, by that time, someone had already called him, because that was my second line of communication, and told him. So we kind of just met right outside his office. He said, "Well, looks like you're not going to be around for a while."
Now, what reserve units in Bartlesville?
I was not in Bartlesville. I was stationed in the 1011th Quartermasters out of Independence, Kansas.
1011.
Yes.
Quartermaster. Okay. So, where'd you go?
We went to Fort Riley. That was our deploy site. We was there or actually went to the unit for a little more than a month, I think it was, and then we went to the deploy site for, I think it was 45 days. And then I went to Balad, Iraq, or Camp Anaconda, Iraq.
Where in Iraq?
Balad,
Balad.
B-A-L-A-D.
B-A-L-E-D.
Military knows it as Camp Anaconda.
Camp Anaconda.
That was an air base.
Yes. How'd you travel to Iraq?
So when we went into Kuwait first. That's
Now,
where we.
how'd you get to Kuwait?
Okay, so we flew from Fort Riley. Fort Riley to Atlanta, then Atlanta, civilian charter flight to Kuwait. We were picked up from bus from the Kuwait airport to, I don't remember, I think it was Camp Victory. I think it's what the camp was called. Then we waited there for our equipment that was on a boat to reach us. We unloaded equipment from the port, and then my unit actually went north into Iraq before I did. I was the only one in the unit that was qualified on every piece of equipment, and I had two wretches, which is a 50,000 pound forklift to hold the containers, 20-ton crane or 22-ton crane, and a 10,000 pound forklift that they didn't have the proper MHE to move it north. So I was left behind in Kuwait for, I think it's an additional 2 or 3 weeks to wait for the trucks to come back to load that equipment and head north.
I'd like to ask, when you're getting on the airplane in the States, heading to Kuwait, what were you thinking?
You know, that's a very difficult question. You think of a lot of things. Of course, this is post 9/11, so you think of everything going on in the world. You think about your family. At the time, my wife and 2 kids was at home. My son was 4, my daughter was 2. I don't know. It's hard to think about what you're thinking. You just put one foot in front of the other. You trust your buddy beside you, because at that point in time, that's the one thing that matters. And you just go.
Now, if the port was at Kuwait City?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So you head north.
So,
How'd you get to your unit?
so when we loaded the heads with the equipment, I actually drove a Humvee from Kuwait all the way to Balad. One of the worst things I ever encountered in my life because we had no doors, we had no air conditioning, of course. Uh, it was so hot, we stripped down to a t-shirt, and the road was so bad, there was a sandstorm that you couldn't see the truck in front of us. And I would go by sound because the big hits, they rattle so much with the big gates, big equipment, and stuff like that. I could hear the rattle. Well, when I couldn't hear the rattle no more, I would speed up. When I could hear the rattle, I would slow down. And that was my judge. And when we finally hit the pavement where we got out of kicking up so much dirt, I was like 6 feet from the truck in front of me. And then the head behind me was about 6 feet behind me. So I would have been squished if they would have not been able to see each other, which I don't know how good their view was, but mine sucked.
How long did it take to get up to your unit?
I think it was, I believe we did it in one day, but I think it was close to like a 20-hour trip, if I remember right. Because we got started real early that morning, and it was way late when we got to Camp Anaconda.
Now, what part of Iraq is Camp Anaconda?
It's about, military speed, about an hour north of Baghdad.
Okay. Because in Kuwait City, there's a interstate highway north.
It's called Highway 1.
Yeah.
At the time, the southern part of that highway was destroyed because we destroyed it. So a lot of the roads that I was just talking about was still dirt
Okay.
or getting repaired.
Okay. So what'd you do at Camp Anaconda?
So my specialty, I did vehicle recovery. So I had a 5-ton wrecker, and I drove that wrecker every day, 7 days a week at first, and I finally went down to 6 days a week. At first, I was doing missions on base. They were pulling up because we built Balad, I think it was the late 80s, and gave it to the Saudis, or not Saudis, but the Iraqis, Saddam, way back when, because we was friends with them, I guess you'd say. So, we were there picking up a lot of stuff, moving a lot of stuff. When we invaded, of course, we blew up all the aircraft that was there. We did a lot of damage to that base. So we was moving a lot of the junk, putting out in the boneyard, just away from everybody. Did a lot of just loading and unloading because my wrecker had a pivotal boom on the back, so I could load and unload because there was only 2 cranes on base. It was that 22 crane, mine, and one other civilian one. So we did a lot of movement like that. After that, I started doing vehicle recovery. I went from Anaconda to Baghdad, or Anaconda to Mosul, which is way up north, and sometimes a triangle. Sometimes we go from Baghdad all the way to Mosul, then back to Anaconda.
Now, what vehicles were you recovering?
Anything that was blown up on the side of the road.
Okay.
A lot of times that we were picking up, our truck and our convoy. I ran with a unit, it was a 5-ton truck unit. I want to say it was the 1484th, but don't quote me on that. But it was a 5-ton truck unit. Their wrecker was broke down, so our unit supported them, but I went with them. And whenever one of their trucks would break down, I would pick it up and bring it, and fix it or whatever I needed to do,
Okay.
and then carry on day to day.
Now, how'd you bring the vehicle back? Did you physically carry it or pull it or what?
Well, we pulled it. We didn't have trailers to haul like that, so I'd use a tow bar, and either if it had all 6 wheels on the ground still, I'd use, just pull with a tow bar, or if something happened to the front axle or something like that, I'd pick it up and drag it.
Now, was your whole unit called deployed?
Yes,
So you were still at the 1011th then?
yes,
Okay.
yes. At that time, they still did complete unit deployments. They didn't do the modular system like we do now.
Have any contact with the local people around Camp Anaconda?
Not around Camp Anaconda. Being up and down the highways, we dealt a lot with, especially if someone broke down, it's like you look across there when you first break down, there's nobody, and 5 minutes later, and here's a bunch of people coming. So it was always apprehensive when somebody break down because you're just trying to hook up and move out because you didn't know who was coming. This one particular day, an ID was spotted under a bridge. And of course, it shut down the highway. So we had to wait for EOD to come out and remove the explosive. And this, of course, civilian traffic's coming in, parked right next to you, and you're always looking around, see who's around. Of course, a 5-ton truck sits pretty high. And this one particular day, this van pulled up, this civilian van, stuffed full of Iraqis. I mean, you never could believe how many people they could shove in a van. But they had this little girl there, this beautiful, beautiful little girl, beautiful pink dress on, and it hit me hard because she looked to be the same age as my daughter. And I sat there, and of course, you look down at her, and you look up, and you just try to not focus on it because she started thinking about home and stuff like that. And I looked down again, her dad's, the man, was holding her outside the window, and she's trying to hand me a potato chip. And, you want to take it because, it's a gesture, but on the same hand, they could have laced it with poison.
Yes.
So you just refuse it politely. But that day hit pretty home on my family. So
Yeah. And you were there how long before they
A year.
removed? I'm sorry?
a year.
How long
Oh.
were you there before they removed the IED?
Oh, maybe 30 minutes. I mean, EOD worked pretty quick there,
Okay.
but it didn't take them long.
Now, you did vehicle recovery the whole time you were there?
Yes,
Okay. Were you based anywhere besides Camp Anaconda?
not for that trip,
Okay.
deployment. So.
Did you go through Baghdad?
I went to Baghdad almost every day. We nicknamed it BIOP, Baghdad International Airport. The military side was the back side. I did convoys there almost every single day.
What was your reaction to people in Baghdad to you? Do you have any contact with them?
So the only time we had contact with them was driving up down the road. For the most part, it wasn't bad. They just kept away from all the military vehicles because we had signage on all of our vehicles, stay back. Sometimes it got a little squirrely. Going into Baghdad, there was a lot of on-ramps, off-ramps, just like any kind of city. And even though we did a rolling blockade where we kept civilian vehicles out of our convoys, and a lot of times that was my job. If a civilian truck got in there and they wouldn't remove, it was my job to go in there and remove them. Many times I used my truck and forcibly removed them from the roadway. I hope I never hurt anybody, but on the same hand, I was always just trying to protect my brothers and sisters. So, but with the on-ramps and off-ramps, you'd always get these cars, and one particular day, I always had a gun truck follow behind me. It was a 900 series 5-ton with a gun mount on the top of it with no trailer, because if nothing else, they gave us another tractor. If a truck broke down, they could hook up the trailer, and then I would haul the tractor only. But most of the time, I'd just haul a tractor and trailer and not worry about it. But this van, or this bus, this like Greyhound bus like we have here, pulled in beside us, and they wouldn't move. They wouldn't move. And Sergeant Cook was actually in the gunner seat that day, and he swung that 50 cal, and he's sitting right at the driver's head, and the drivers kept on driving, and his drive, the gun truck driver was on the phone with me. He's like, hey, you may need to pull back here and get these guys out of the way. And I was like, okay. Well, I'm watching my mirrors, and next thing I know, the gun's pointing like this. Well, then he turrets it over, so it sticks that barrel off the side of the truck about 3 more feet. And it goes through the side window of that Greyhound bus, and now that barrel's about this far from the driver's head. He finally got the gist that he backed off. A lot of times, the cars, everybody there is impatient. It's like Houston. Everybody wants to get everywhere, period. They would come in on those side ramps, and of course our trucks, we didn't move. We just stayed our course. And many times they'd get sandwiched between vehicles coming on and off, and you look down the side of a Chevy Caprice car, and there's these tiny tire marks going down the side of the car. When I used my truck to remove them, I would always honk my horn, try to get them moved. My co-driver would always point his weapon, yell the command to move out, and they wouldn't move. Then I would just bump them off the side of the road and get them out of the way. So
Overall, were the people, they have a favorable attitude toward the Americans, or unfavorable? Or could you tell?
I couldn't tell. They weren't shooting at us for the most part. The only time we were shot at, we had one IED go off on the convoy. It went off near the end of the convoy, so working from the back forward, there was a gun truck, there was me, because being a record support, you always want to be in the rear. And then there was tractor trailer, gun truck, then 5 more tractor trailers and front truck. And the IED went off right in front of the tractor trailer, directly in front of me. It was so large that it knocked down one of the big power lines. I'm not talking about like your normal residential, I'm talking about like out of the power fact company power lines. So we had a live line on the ground. The tractor trailer in front of me stopped because they couldn't see. They didn't know if anything was blown up in front of them. I pulled up next to them because they had a radio in their truck, and the bed of my truck was all steel. So I would use the bed of my truck to protect the radio guys, so because we started receiving small arms fire from a little village on the right and a plant that was on the left. And then of course the gun truck was behind us. And I returned fire on the left to the factory, and my co-driver returned fire to the right. And just as soon as the road was clear and we could see it was clear, you know, we just moved on out, caught up with the convoy, because the convoy was not, you know, the training was do not stop. The stupidest thing I ever seen is the center gun truck left the convoy out of protocol, came back, ended up shooting his own mirror out because the guy was so stupid, but hey, whatever. And then anyway, we rolled on out, got back to base. So when you sit down on your cot, that you realize what you just went through. You know, nobody got hurt, nobody got injured. So,
What's your best memory of Iraq?
so I got baptized while I was there. The Tigris River is right there behind Camp Anaconda, and I got baptized in the waters of Tigris. So, pretty pivotal moment in my life.
Did your chaplain baptize you?
My chaplain did, Chaplain Charsky. Last I heard, he's still serving today.
Was he in your unit?
No, he was with the headquarters unit that ran the base.
Okay. So he was based in Iraq then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, based in that, I mean, he was with the active duty unit that revolved out. You know, you always have a battalion or brigade in charge of a base, and then we just fell underneath active duty units.
What
when we were
unit
there.
was there?
I do not remember.
Okay.
At that point in time, my sole purpose was pick up
Yeah.
blown up stuff, so I didn't care who this is.
What's your worst memory of Iraq?
One morning, early in the morning, it was actually on a day off. I wasn't supposed to go out on convoy. My motor sergeant, Sergeant First Class Colson, came to me and woke me up out of bed and said, "Hey, I need you to get your gear on, I need you to get your truck ready and get ready to go." So, didn't know what was going on. Jumped up, got my gear, got out there in my truck. Of course, by this time, other people are stirring. It's like, okay, what's going on? And everybody's asking me, like, I don't know. I'm just doing what I'm told. I'm getting my truck ready. And go out there, fire up my truck, get all the air brake, air system all powered up. I'm ready to go. And then he comes back to me and says, "Hey, we're on standby. They may have already got it pulled in. The convoy outside the gate already had a record support with them." And I'm, of course, asking what the hell's going on. And so that particular morning, we had a section of our unit called QRF, Quick Reaction Force. And they worked with different units who their gun trucks are broke down or whatever, and they would go provide support for that convoy going out. We had 2 trucks that day, 1 truck. I think it was 2 trucks on the convoy, 1 truck compromised, but we had deuce and halves, the older style deuce and halves. And of course we didn't have up armor, we didn't have plating, we didn't have anything. We did the Vietnam era, we sandbag our trucks. When you sandbag them, that means you put in the perimeter of the bed 4 foot high sandbags. Well, when you do that, you add a lot of weight. Well, I drove in that truck before with that weight, and I flat out told my commander it's the most unsafe thing I've ever seen in my life. But on the same hand, no armor, no nothing, it was just as bad. Now, with that being said, that morning the convoy left at the south gate of Anaconda, and the highway going out of the south gate was just a 2-lane highway. I don't remember what type of unit they were supporting that day, but the unit coming in the gate was the big heads. Well, the trailer, the 20-axle trailer, is almost twice as wide as a regular trailer. So they took up a lot of the road, all the road almost. Their convoy was going out. The other convoy, the head convoy, was coming in. And we had a very inexperienced female driver, I'll leave her name out, who pushed her way forward using sexual discrimination, this, that, and the other thing to get on the QRF team. She was no longer qualified to do it, but she got her way, and she got on there. She was the driver of that deuce and a half. Completely inexperienced driver, but so it was her in the driver's seat. I don't want to use names. There was a soldier in the gunner seat who was set above the passenger seat, and there was two in the back of the truck. They were going past this convoy. The heads are really neat because the tractor never increases more than 15 degrees from the trailer. The trailer axles turn independently, but with that, if you turn your wheel real fast in those tractors, the trailer will kind of mimic it on the trailer side. Well, the tractor driver was trying to keep the truck on the pavement, not worrying so much about the trailer, but his wheel slid off. He corrected, came back on, but that jerk caused the trailer, of course, to do the opposite jerk. That opposite jerk hit the back end of our deuce and half. Seeing it somewhat sideways, the inexperienced driver overcorrected, ended up going head on with the head behind, the next head in line. That head was carrying an Abrams tank, so you're talking 20 plus tons, probably way more than that. I don't know how much a tank weighs, but on that truck, so it's like hitting a brick wall. That impact twisted the cab and the bed a good 20 degrees. Ejected all four of them. She went out the passenger door. The gunner went out through the top, and the two in the back, of course, got flown. So everything stops, secure the area, they start looking, and they find three. And everybody's like, no, there's four of us. No, there's four of us. And they's like, no, you're delusional. We looked all over. There's only three. Well, adamantly, my guys, our unit guys stayed, no, there was four of us, I promise you. And they went looking, and the one flew over that head and landed underneath the next head and was under the trailer of the head. He did survive. He ended up losing his, I think it was his right leg. If not, it was his left, but he ended up losing a leg. He had 2 or 3 surgeries in country, multiple stateside. They couldn't get the infection to stop, so they ended up taking his leg. The other 3, all 3 incurred concussions. One had dislocated shoulder. 2 of them had broken pelvises. It was just, that was the worst day. Every day we got mortared, every day we got rocketed. Some close, some far. You see the cartoons on Facebook now where, the soldier's sitting there and hears the sirens going off, says, well, if it's my day to go, it's my day to go. And that's exactly the mentality we had. One particular day we had a fuel truck convoy come in to refuel our fuel point because the 1011 ran the fuel point. And as the truck stopped, our guy ran the fuel point. He sees fuel just coming out of the side of his tanker. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I go over and there's an RPG hole in the side of the tanker. Of course, everybody scattered. EOD came out, and there was a live RPG round floating around in the tank of fuel. It just, for some reason, didn't explode when it hit.
What type of quarters did you have at Camp Anaconda?
So we slept in a tent the whole year. The maintenance, we slept in military tents. It's just your normal GP mediums, same thing you had in Vietnam. The first couple months, everybody was in GP mediums on one side of the road. And then as the base was expanding and growing, they started putting up almost like big top canvas tents they bought from the civilians. And they were moving parts of the unit from one side of the road to the other, making a housing area and a work area. On me being maintenance, we got to stay in our work area because I need more work areas for more units coming in.
And what kind of bunkers did you have?
None. Canvas top.
What did you do in the rocket mortar attacks?
Slept. They did finally start putting bunkers in. The base had these, when you look at it from the sky, it looked like an E. Where you take a Connex, and I got to do a couple of these. You flip the Connex over because the bottom of the Connex is stronger than the top. And then you slide them in there, and then you'd sandbag it to a point not to collapse it, but at least gave you a place to give some haven. I can think of 0 times they were ever used, but they were there towards the end of our deployment. Our trucks are soft skin trucks. We had the flak vest. We didn't have we got the new up armored, I can't remember what they call them now, with the plates, the sappy plates.
Yeah.
Later on.
Were they Kevlar or what?
Kevlar, yes, but we had the original flak, same thing you had in Vietnam, and we started taking those and hanging them over the door because at least then you had 2 layers before it hit you. If it was on, you only had 1 layer before it hit you. So, we did what we could, sandbag the floors so an ID going off would have less likely of a chance to hit you. Just do our job.
So you spent 1 year in Iraq.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about coming home.
So coming home was fun. I didn't get to come home with the unit. I came home medical. So the unit came home, went through Fort Riley. They had a really nice presentation for them. The town people of Independence, Kansas did an awesome job. I got to see the videos and the pictures and really welcome home the unit right. So
Why did you come home?
I came home medical. I went home through Germany.
Well, medical. What happened?
My back. I broke my back in 2001, and towards the end of the deployment, I had wrenched it one too many times, and I had rods in my back, so I came home medical about a week before the unit did. But I was in Germany when they came home, then I came home about 2 weeks after the unit got home.
What did you think when you first landed back in the United States?
Well, for me, because I was a medical, I didn't come home with the unit, so there's no grand parade, there's no welcome home, there was nothing like that. When I flew home, I went to Fort Riley, did my out processing. No, I take it back, I didn't go through Fort. I went through Fort Hood, not Fort Hood. What's that medical hospital in Texas?
Brooke, San Antonio?
San Antonio.
Yes.
I flew home from
Brooke
there.
Army Hospital?
Yes. They did my out processing there, and then I just flew to Tulsa by myself. My wife and kids picked me up, and then it was just trying to get back into civilian life.
You go back and work at Schlumberger?
I did go back working for Schlumberger, yes.
You called to active duty again?
I was called, of course we were notified in 2009, and then 2010 through 2011 we went to Afghanistan.
What happened?
So when I was called up the second time,
Was it the unit again deployed?
it's a different unit. At this time I was the commander of the 481st MCT, Movement Control Team,
481st?
481st,
Where's that located?
here in Bartlesville.
41st?
Movement Control Team,
MC,
MCT,
MCT, Movement Control Team.
yes.
Okay. So, tell me about going to Afghanistan.
So prior to that, you need to start with the unit. The unit was a brand new unit. It was only maybe 2 years old. I was the commander. I was a CW2 at the time. I had
CW2,
Chief Warrant Officer 2.
Chief Warrant Officer, okay. Now, when did you get your commission as a warrant officer?
September of 2007.
Okay.
So we looked at the unit, and I had nothing but kids. I had one E6, one E7, and E3 and below. I went in there, and I brought the whole unit in. There was 19, I believe, at the time, 18 maybe. And I told them the flat honest truth. speaking to the kids. That's how I look at it, because that's what they were. I told them, I said, I want you to look around. Some of you will not be deploying with us. One of you will be married. One of you will be divorced by the time we get back. And one of you will be pregnant or have a pregnancy in your life. And of course, all of them laughed at me and said it wouldn't come true. And unfortunately, 4 out of the 4 came true. My E7 did not go. My E6 did go. I ended up incurring 5 more E6s who all promised E7 for the deployment, which only one got it, which of course just created a lot of consequences in the deployment. I had one soldier get thrown in jail right before we left because he had anger issues. I won't go into that. I had one soldier have his buddy break his arm with a baseball bat, so he wouldn't be able to go. I had 2 soldiers get married, and one of those ended up getting his divorce papers before we got back home. I had a captain come on board who, because I was commander, she didn't want me to go. And I refused to not go because if I would have left, those kids would have had nobody there for them. Because every higher ranking person was there to get the next rank. They weren't there for them. And I told that to the 1-star general at the 4th ESC who we fell under.
No, what?
4th ESC.
Okay. What's the 4th ESC?
So it's a Sustainment Command Expeditionary is actually what that stands for. They're out of San Antonio, Texas. I just flat told them, I said, I will go if you let me. And I explained the situation. I said, if I don't go, there's going to be no one looking out for these kids. So I deployed with them. Had a very rough deployment because of the politics of the unit. The E6s were all bold-chested to show they deserved the E7 because there's only going to be one. They found out later. The commander who still hated me the whole time I was there tried to ship me off to battalion, which was up in Bagram. End up, because of what was going on, call it mutiny, I guess, but the unit finally stood up to her and flat told her that, for the things that she had done, if she didn't leave, they would take her forward to the command. So next thing I know, I was not getting shipped out. I was brought back, and I had a lieutenant there who, it was complete opposite of the commander. The commander, she was a micromanager. You couldn't get a job done, and he was such a delegator. He didn't do his own job. So I just stayed focused on my soldiers, taking care of them, and made it through a year of hell.
What'd you do in Afghanistan?
So our unit, being a movement control team, we tracked shipments, whether it be personnel, equipment, supplies, whatever. We were stationed in Spin Buldak, Afghanistan.
How you spell that?
Spin, S-P-I-N, Buldak, B-U-L-D-A-K, if I remember right. The place was nicknamed Spin B.
Spin B, okay.
It was right at the Sharman Gate. It wasn't the Sharman Gate because there was a fob called the Sharman Gate there, but we was right up the road from them. My unit, basically what we ran was a glorified truck stop because all of our supplies came through Pakistan. These truckers would come in, bullet holes in the truck, shot up, rocks thrown at them, busted out windshields. Sometimes we provide slight medical aid for them, if we can give them some bandage or whatever. But they would come through the Sharman Gate into Afghanistan and pull off at our site. We'd house all the trucks, we'd count the trucks. The next morning they would take off and go on to Kandahar.
Now, were these civilian or military trucks?
These were civilian trucks hauling military equipment.
Okay.
A lot of times this is where we got to see the true ingenuity of Pakistanis, because they got to where they cut off the back of a Connex, take everything out, put a couple boulders in there so it still has the weight, and weld it back on and ship it. They would hold these drivers hostage during this. They would threaten their families. That's how they got them to stop. Sometimes they were just paid because, let's face it, over there they were poor and money meant everything. So, a lot of times our military vehicles come in missing a lot of equipment. There was times when I had to enforce the law there, and, basically I worked with Afghan Border Police and Afghan Border Patrol. They was on site with us, and whenever we had someone who was a thief, I found our equipment in their trucks, I'll turn them over to them, and then they would process them through the civilian system. We worked with another unit who did the security for our work site, and then my unit did the tracking of the vehicles inside the work site. So I managed around 35, 40 people there. Nearing the end of our deployment, probably the last 3 or 4 months, they decided to do away with the military protection of it and go to civilian contractor, who I met a British guy who was contract lead for the civilian security force. And we worked hand in hand to hire and fire locals to come guard us. And let me tell you, the strangest thing you ever get is when you hand an Afghani an AK-47, teach them how to shoot, and hope they never turn around and use it on you, because over there that's how most people died. Near the end of our deployments, when that general got shot and killed, if I remember right. If it wasn't a general, it was another instance just like that, but it was difficult. It was my job to train them how to shoot. So we take them on spin bulldog on our range. I would have 20 firers at a time, have 20 weapons there so it was secure, give them a magazine of ammo, and teach them how to shoot. One of the strangest events that ever happened there was we had this one guy, we tried to teach him how to shoot. I have a interpreter right next to me. He was my right hand. And as I'm instructing, he's translating. And he's sitting there telling him how to look over the back sight to see the front sight. Dang, well, he wouldn't do it. He'd just look at the front sight and never at the broadside of the barn. Well, finally, he jumped up like he was going to, he was probably just mad. He didn't grab his gun or anything. Of course, I had my gun trucks there. They all point on him, so he knew not to do anything. And he kept blaming the weapon system. So I picked up the weapon system, fired however many rounds was left in the magazine, and at 50 meters held a shot pattern pretty darn close. Well, the whole line just got silent. And everybody, we kind of just finished out the day, but it was a totally different atmosphere. Well, at the end of the day, the security lead, the contractor, took them all back to the work site. They went to bed, I went to bed. Next morning I go out to the work site, and it's like I had the plague. I walked through their base. I always checked on them every morning to make sure everything was kosher. I'd go visit with my contractor and make sure everything's good with him, because he lived there with the contractors, and it just didn't feel right. Nobody said a word to me. When you say, they say, "Hi, Chief," or whatever. Nothing. So I went and got my interpreter, went and started talking to him. I said, "You need to find out what's going on." And he went around to several different groups, and he came back and he said, Chief, you good, you good. And I was like, "What do you mean I'm good?" And he explained to me that over there, when you're in the military or when you're in the police or whatever, your rank is determined by how well you shoot. Well, when they seen how well I shot, I held status of general with them. So they didn't talk to generals.
Yeah.
So it changed the atmosphere tremendously over there. And it was nice. Along with that, I did everything I could. I provided them power, got them generator support. We built nice guard towers. Me and I can't think of his name now, but a couple of sergeants from battalion came down. They just wanted to get away from battalion for a while, so they came down, and me and them sat there and built guard towers for about 2 weeks straight, and put up guard towers and water and everything else. So.
What type of quarters did you have in Afghanistan?
So they called them chews. They're like a 20-foot container, not a shipping container, but they were civilian made. I believe they were made in Europe and shipped down here.
What are they called?
Chews.
Chews.
It's like a 20-foot container, but they're collapsed when they ship them. And then when they get on site, they erect them, and then you can pick them up with a crane and set them in place, and you can stack them, I believe, up to 2 high. I don't know
How do
if
you
they,
spell that?
CHU, I believe.
CHU.
I don't really know.
Yeah, okay.
But that's what we slept in, and usually they're 2-person quarters, 3-person quarters for lower rating, ranking. It was nice. I had air conditioning and stuff, so wasn't bad.
Have any trouble with the Taliban in Afghanistan?
So, luckily where we were, the only time there was any violence, it was national to national. There was a general lived up on a hill back behind our work site. His name was General Razik. Self-made general, I guess you'd say. He was a landowner. That's who we purchased the land from. And we had Blackwater about 2 clicks behind our base at the bottom of the hill. So that was our quick reaction force if anything happened. But usually there was a couple times when gunshots would go off in the town because we was right there on the edge of town. Or I think there was one day we had an ID go off. But it was always one family against another family. It was never against the green suiters. So, many times we would all suit up and we'd walk across the street that had an open air market. We would try to do things to just present ourselves as friendly people. We would go buy stuff from them just to spend the money with them to help them. We got our bread from them. We'd buy lambs and chickens so we could have barbecues and stuff for morale for my troops. Vegetables, oh my God, we had so many vegetables over there, it was great. But we tried to keep that open communication.
Did it work?
For the most part, I mean, if they ever heard of something that was someone targeted, they would come talk to us, so it was nice. They didn't want to lose that income. Of course, our base is right across the street, so they sure didn't want to happen right there, because they might get hurt. So, one of the coolest things we did is I actually got to come home on Christmas Day that year for leave. So while I was home, even though we didn't spread the word of Christmas, I called on many of my friends to buy toys. Not Christmas toys, just toys. And so I took 2 duffel bags of toys home back with me. So now we're in the first week of January, or maybe the second week. But anyway, I go talk to my ABP, we call him Cuckoo, that was his name. And I told him, I said, I want you to go out and round up as many kids as you can, ages 14 and below. I said, please understand it's not nothing bad. And I explained to him what I was going to do. And he's like, oh yeah, that's great, that's great. So he went and round up, 20, maybe 30 kids, and brought them on there, and I grabbed all my soldiers, and we all just took turns, picking a toy out and giving it to a child, and showing them how to throw a frisbee or different games, like the ball with the mitt with the Velcro on it, just teach them different games. So it's a fun day.
What's your best memory of Afghanistan?
Honestly, probably just that moment I just spoke of, because over there, you're always trying to look at who you're changing them for. You're not changing them for that 60-year-old man who's been in war for, 59 years of his life. You just can't change his memories. So you do it for the kids. You do it because you want them to have a better life. So hopefully there's no more death and destruction in their life, and to have a positive reaction with the green suiter. So it's always about the kids for me.
What's your worst memory?
Probably just seeing the destruction of people against people. A lot of times it's just green suiters against green suiter. What I spoke of earlier with the E6s, there's a lot of backstabbing. Looked at, I did a lot of watching that deployment. Of course, I was higher ranking, so I didn't have to do so much doing. And I watched guys that were best friends at home become bitter enemies. I watched guys who never do certain things at home, start doing some pretty stupid stuff overseas. I watched some people better themselves. I had one soldier who enrolled, we had internet there, so he enrolled in college, and I believe he finished a degree while he was there. I watch marriages crumble to nothing. I watch immoralities. It's just part of war, I guess you'd call it. Learned about things when I got back that I didn't even know happened while I was there. So, you know, I think if I deploy again, I'm going to be focused more on watching for that. Yeah.
So tell me about coming home from Afghanistan.
So we came home. You know, back up for 1 minute there. The going away, my hat's off to Bartlesville. They gave us an amazing go away. Of course, I was still a key communicator for Bartlesville because I knew everybody here. I went to the city community center here, and I told them I would like to host a going away, you know, kind of a farewell for family and friends. And at first, you know, it's like, well, we got to charge, you know, we don't do menus for free. And, you know, by a little bit of communication, whoever was in charge said, no, we ain't charging you nothing. What do you want? You need a stage, you need a sound system, you know, how many guests are we going to have? What are we going to have? And, you know, they let us use that front room in the community center, set it up amazingly, had this wonderful going away party for things going, you know, the city mayor came in, spoke, the fire department actually did this cool thing, just like when fallen firefighters for the funeral, they put the 2 ladder trucks up and draped the flag across, and as the buses pulled out, you know, just gave us that honor as we left. And when we got back, it was just about the same. You know, we didn't have a parade as such, but it was a very open, warming welcome back to Bartlesville. You know, one of the hardest things for me when I left that time, that morning we left Bartlesville and we was going to Indiana to our deploy site. At this time I have 3 kids. So my oldest 2, you know, they're about 10 and 8. And my youngest one was 2. So it always seems like I always leave when my kids are 2. My youngest one woke up and didn't want anything to do with Dad that day, you know, just that mood. And had to really push hard to get a kiss goodbye. You know, my oldest 2, they came out and helped me put the flag up that day, you know. Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah.
So you go back to Schlumberger again?
No. Yeah, well, yeah, I did, I guess you'd say. I was actually laid off, and before I left. Sat there, went back to work. I got a job back there. I was actually emailing Terry Joslin, our HR there, before I came home, and she got me a job back on there as I came back. And so I worked there for about 6 months.
Work where?
Back at Schlumberger.
Okay.
About 6 months, and it just wasn't the same no more.
Okay.
You know, being a union shop, you're a number, and at that time, because I was gone for more than 2 years, I was had to start over. So what for me? So when I came back, I worked there until December. Then I quit and went on to a new job. So.
Would you join the Army again?
I would. You know, it's funny. The one thing I'm married to longer than the Army is my wife. I married her in July of '98. Joined the military in August of '98. The things I've learned, the things I've seen, the things I've done, the people I've met. You know, I've been in, I believe it's 13 or 14 different countries now. Climbed on 2 sets of pyramids around the world. Just the people, the things, you know, a dumb old redneck from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, you know, don't have that opportunity.
What pyramid did you climb on?
I've climbed the Mayan ruins, and I've been in Egypt, and I've climbed, well, I shouldn't say climb, I've went into and seen the 3 main pyramids there.
Yeah. Did you get to Ur in Iraq?
Get to where?
Ur, where Abraham was born?
No, I did not.
Ziggurat of Ur?
I did not. Wanted to.
I was in charge of her.
Oh, yeah? That's cool.
I'd like to do a word association. I'll give you some words and you give me your reaction. First one is basic training.
Fun.
Kuwait.
Interesting.
Iraq.
Hot.
Camp Anaconda.
Friendship.
Afghanistan.
Turmoil.
I'm sorry?
Turmoil.
Turmoil. Spin B.
Heartache.
Vehicle recovery.
Difficult.
Bill Clinton.
President.
George W. Bush.
President.
Why were we in Iraq and Afghanistan?
My job told me I was going to be there to support American forces. It was not my job to depict why we were there in the first place.
Okay. Well, sir, this is an excellent interview. I want to thank you for your service and thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
And again, this is March 30th, 2019. My name is Joe Todd. This has been an interview with Joe Sheets in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Thank you.